And
BTC Sessions.
I get it all. Sometimes I get Mr. Sessions, which is hilarious.
Mr. Session actually sounds like a trade.
Yeah. My wife now gets recognized as Mrs. Sessions.
Mrs. Sessions.
So I'll take whatever you throw at me. That is okay too.
And your children, are they tiny Sessions?
Yeah, that's a good idea. They are now.
The Sessions family is here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving me this time.
Yeah.
This was very impromptu, guys. I just happened to run into Mr. Sessions or Ben, whatever makes everyone happy.
Yeah.
And he said yes to an interview with Nostr.Report. He actually reads us.
Nostr.Report's great. It encapsulates everything I want to know. A nice little feed. It's great.
Thank you. We are a group of crazy people that work all day on this, and I feel sometimes I'm the one that works the less because the guys are always at the computer doing things. So it's cool.
Well, it's awesome. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
I enjoy it.
Thank you. So now that we're at the topic of creating content and you're a content creator, and we were talking about content creation tips and stuff, I heard you in Miami, and you were talking about it's really hard to monetize content.
Yes.
And I come from marketing. So we are the evil ones that want to pay content creators to do what we want and promote what we want, but not all brands are okay. And not everything aligns with the beliefs that we're trying to put in, right?
Yeah.
And you being such a hardcore Bitcoiner that has talked to many people, how do you keep yourself pure?
So there's a variety of things. Obviously, so I primarily create content on YouTube. So a lot of tutorials, things like that. But in terms of viewership and what Google allows you to take in terms of what they actually make, it's not. So you have to go through other revenue models to hope to make some money. If you want to do it full time, which I do, I love what I do. So, the sponsorship thing is just kind of what works right now. So you have to make sure that you're not selling your soul to do that. So as a Bitcoin's focused content creator, that means you get the inbox full of garbage trying to sponsor you. And that's just, if you don't sell your soul, it's a blanket no to basically everything through your inbox. And so that means taking the time yourself and saying, what do I actually use? What do I think is useful and good for other people to use? And then actually reaching out to those people and saying, would you like to sponsor so there's a lot of that. And then, so as an educator, obviously I do free tutorials for everybody. But a lot of people do want more hand-holding and that one-on-one kind of education. So I do that as they get monetized, workshops, things like that. And then now, in the vein of Nostr, there's that value for value happening here. So it's early in that.
Yes.
But I think that could be a viable things progress.
Okay, so you mentioned you create tutorials, right? What got you into creating tutorials?
I got so sick of not being able to find tutorials. That's
usually it.
Yeah. So, I got into Bitcoin and, when I first started in Bitcoin, there was no content in terms of learning the practical part of how to use it. So, it was the early era of Andreas Antonopoulos. And so that helped me understand the why of Bitcoin. But then when I said, how do I actually go do this? There was nothing. There was no step-by-step. And I'm a visual. And when I would ask, how do I do this? It would be like, oh, go to this message board and scroll down through the comments. And some dude typed out the steps. I don't learn that way. So I spent a couple of years tearing hair. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to do that. Now that I'm comfortable enough, I'll just start doing it myself.
Well, as someone who's also not technical, and I've seen Andrea's videos, and I've learned a lot from him. I understood things that my non-technical brain never understand if it wasn't because of him.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate your videos because they make it so much easier.
Right.
Yes. So we mentioned your family just recently, and to me, I think it's an interesting development that I see Bitcoin more than any industry is that it's very family oriented, right? And as content creators, you are very out there. You are leading the way. You're creating precedent, and that's something that's unique. How does that work out with raising a family, going around the world with them?
Yeah. So this past few years have been the most I've ever traveled in my life. And I think I was well traveled before. And now it's like, I started the year saying, okay, I'm only going a couple places. And now I'm here in Prague. And from here I go to Oslo. Then I go to Toronto, because I've got 3 different conferences I'm hitting all in a row. I was just in Miami. And then later we've got family trips so needless to say that the kids are very well traveled already. My daughter's turning 6 this summer. My son has been to more countries at the age of 2 than I had by the time I was 22. So it's with a family. I'm lucky that my wife has a pretty flexible job. She's a nurse, but she's casual, so she can not take shifts, that little thing. And as a content creator, I can kind of work wherever. So when it's possible, I bring my family along with, fortunately not for this trip, but soon the next one. Yeah, in terms of traveling with young kids, it's kind of proof of work.
Yes.
Because you just kind of accept when you're traveling with young children, you're just going to have some crappy trips. And then the more you take them places, the more they get used to it and the more they understand what they have to do in order to be able to get places and do things. And so now my daughter is a dream to travel with, and my son is a 2-year-old.
He's not a dream. He's a 2-year-old.
But give him a couple of years and he'll be very easy to travel with too. So, it's been great, and it gets easier as time passes.
Okay, so for all the Nostrians and Bitcoiners out there with children, it does happen. It does get easier.
Yeah. It's, the cost is a whole other thing.
That one too.
Yeah. So, if you're doing work at these conferences, or if you're volunteering, or if you're speaking, then that definitely helps. But yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, and so you were married when you started creating content?
Yes. Yeah. So I got married. Actually, I started my channel a couple months before I left with my then girlfriend, now wife, to go get married. So we got married. And so when you watch my first handful of videos, we were backpacking through Southeast Asia as I was starting the channel. Yeah. So it was it's always been kind of rooted in travel.
Okay, so that's how you make a marriage work. You go around the world.
Yes, yeah. I thought maybe that was part of it, but yeah, no. It also, if you can travel with somebody, it's a good indication that you can live with.
That is true.
Yeah.
I was going to the point of your wife because so I was speaking with Will and Vanessa, and Vanessa is super supportive of Will, and now picks up her children and herself and goes places to support Damas. And I'm wondering the challenge of starting something new that is it puts weight on a relationship.
Yes.
For the Wales and Vanessas and the Mr. and Mrs. Sessions out there, what is your best advice when it comes to starting something that you do with so much passion like Bitcoin? How do you manage?
It's a little scary. It was challenged to kind of get started and not really know what was going. It started as an hobby. All right. So when I started the channel, it was, I'm going to do a video once a week on whatever I feel like in Bitcoins and see where it goes. Here 7 years later, and still making more content than I'm used to. But yeah, I remember coming to my wife and saying, hey, so I'm going to quit my job and just do this full time. And at the time, it was quitting my old job and going to a Bitcoin related company initially. She put a lot of faith in me to make that move. And as long as we're not living on the street, then you do what you love. And then the same thing, a few years decided to home with the gym and not work, because it turns out I hate people telling me what to do.
I get that.
So yeah, that shift was another moment of all right, well, it was a bit of a leap of faith and see how it works. And luckily for us, it worked out. But you want to test the waters, right? You want to make sure that people find value in what you do in order to do that and make sure that you can kind of stay afloat. But you also have to, there's a degree of you just kind of have to take that risk. And I find when there's something at stake, then you're that much more likely to work and find a way to make it work. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. I think since this is an improv interview and they were going with the mission, I'm going to just ask like a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So 7 years is a long time to be in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of changes. So Nostr is even younger, right? We had Nostr in March, and right now, like I was talking to someone and telling them like what we talked about in March, things are completely different now. If you watch the videos that we were talking about, what we wanted to do, what we were dreaming about, is just a different thing. So, what would you say in terms of adoption and growth? What is the difference of what's going on right now with Nostr to when Bitcoin started?
It's moving so much faster. I mean, I've done 2 tutorials on Nostr.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the first one I did, laughable how much has changed since doing, like, it's completely obsolete. This is like within months. And I did the first one, and then like 2 months later I did the second one, which was less. And even Damas, the one since then, is completely different now. So it's like because Bitcoin, like the base layer is you've got the kind of consensus rules that are not being changed too much, whereas what can be built I'm seeing it similarly with layers on top of Bitcoin now, because now the precedent is set of, okay, layer 2s and everything happening there, and the integration with Lightning, all of these different protocols that are coming from that, there's so much changing, and so the tutorials become stale quicker.
Mm-hmm.
With Nostr, it's happening even, right? Like, it's just the pace at which things are changing. And I keep on seeing, I'll hop on and I'll see, oh, hey, you should do a tutorial on this. I'm like, what the hell is that?
I don't know.
What even is that? I have no idea. So, but I mean, that's a good problem to have, right? It's great when I feel like I'm relatively up to date on things, and then I'll jump on and go, what can you do now? And so, I mean, part of it from the perspective of an educator is like, what do I even focus on, and what is too early to cover? And the answer is never clear. But yeah, it's moving faster than Bitcoin did in its early stages for me. Like, I could more or less, when I was doing tutorials with Bitcoin, it was like, okay, well, there's different wallets to cover, some different ways to secure your Bitcoin, and that can kind of pop between, rest and compare. Now with Bitcoin, there's got a list of things that you cover that I'm never going to get to. And with Nostr, I feel like it's growing even faster. The number of clients, the number of different ways to interact with it, plugins. Yeah,
and Pablo.
Yeah, and so I feel like we're hitting this threshold with technology where and you can't cover it. You can't be an expert in everything. When it comes to Bitcoin and content creation, like you can no longer just be a general Bitcoin content creator. You have to specialize. And Nostr, I think that's going to happen soon, rather.
And on that topic, my final is that how do we bring other types of content creators? Because you and me are focused on Nostr or Bitcoin, right? But how do we help on other people mainstream?
I think, the free speech aspect of it is going to be the first to come, right? The people that are most likely to be censored are the ones to most likely to go all in on. Oddly enough, the shakeup at Twitter may have temporarily delayed it, because there's this aura of, oh, this is a free speech law. Well, is it? It's just depending on who's in charge. And so, when you have those red flags of, oh, maybe this is the beacon of free speech that wanted it to be. I think people might stick around there for a little bit longer, but eventually there's going to be a gatekeeper there that says, no, this isn't allowed, you can't do that. That, we already see a little bit here and there.
Okay.
And so, the people that are most affected by those gatekeepers are the ones that are going to migrate first and be exposed through Nostr to the Matt, I can't remember his name, Matt Taibbi, the guy who did the Twitter thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he was on Stacker's News, and then there's that whole full reveal on and all that, and he ended up on Nostr.
Yes.
And so, like that example is a perfect example of somebody saying, "Oh, they're preventing the conversion I want on this platform. I'm going to try this out." I think you're going to see more of that, just as you did with Bitcoin. The first people that, some of the earliest people on Bitcoin were, so cool. Yeah, so I mean, you're going to see that, but then you're going to see the means to it as well. So, wherever free speech does not exist, they have an outlet for it.
That's great. Thank you again for this time. I hope everyone watching enjoys this too as much as I did. This is I feel like a fangirl right now, so I'm super excited. I can't believe I'm doing this. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great.